Salmon was still warm on my plate when my stepmother said it, the same way you'd mention the weather. We moved the Henderson account funds into your sister's gallery, sweetheart. Think of it as your family contribution. She didn't even pause to chew. She just kept slicing into her fish with that little smile she always wore when she was about to tell me something that would gut me. I set my wine glass down too hard. The stem made a sound against the table that I felt in my teeth. My father didn't look up. He was reading something on his phone, the screen reflected in his reading glasses, and he didn't look up. That's what I remember most. He didn't even bother to look up. Across from me, my half-sister Brindle was scrolling through her phone with the same dead-eyed concentration she'd had since she was 14. She was 31 now. The phone hadn't changed her. Nothing ever did. She was wearing a silk slip dress that probably cost more than my car payment, and there was a little smear of lipstick on her wine glass that nobody had told her about. "What did you just say?" My voice came out flat. I don't know why. I think I was still hoping I'd misheard. "The trust money, honey?" My stepmother, I'd been calling her mom since I was 11, but I want to be clear, she was not my mother, patted her mouth with her napkin. "From your grandfather. We had to make a decision, and your father and I agreed that Brindle's gallery had more potential. You're a doctor, for heaven's sake. You don't need a windfall to live well." The Henderson account. That's what they were calling it. Like it was a fund my grandfather had named after some random man and not the $412,000 he'd put aside specifically for me, his only biological granddaughter, the one he'd taken to the planetarium every other Saturday from the time I was 4 until I left for college. The one whose handwritten note still sat folded inside my passport because I couldn't bring myself to put it anywhere I might lose it. For my Wren, when she's ready to build something of her own. I'd been ready. That was the worst part. I'd just finished my fellowship. I had a building scouted in Sausalito for the dermatology practice I'd been dreaming about since I was 23. I had 3 other physicians lined up to join me. The closing was in 11 days. "That money is in a trust," I said. I was proud of how level my voice sounded. "It's not yours to move." My father finally set his phone down. He took his time about it, too. He folded his hands on the table the way he used to when he was about to deliver one of his lectures back when I was little and still thought he hung the moon. "The trust has a discretionary clause, kiddo. Your stepmother and I exercised it. Brindle has been working toward this gallery for years, and she needed capital. You'll be fine. You're a doctor. Doctors don't go hungry." Brindle looked up from her phone, finally. She gave me a small, apologetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I really appreciate it, you know. I'll pay you back once Hollow Bloom takes off, probably." Hollow Bloom. That was the name of her gallery. I will never forget that name as long as I live. "How much?" I said. My stepmother blinked. "How much what?" "How much did you take?" She and my father exchanged a look. The kind of look they probably practiced in the car on the way over. "All of it, sweetheart," she said gently, like she was telling me my dog had died. Brindle needed the full amount for the lease and the initial inventory. "It's a beautiful space. You should come see it." I don't remember standing up. I remember my chair scraping back, and I remember the coif napkins sliding off my lap and onto the floor, and I remember thinking very clearly, "Pick that up. You're a guest in this house." And then thinking, "No, I'm not. I never was. I want it back," I said. "By Friday. All of it, or I'm calling an attorney on Monday morning." My father's jaw tightened. He stood up too. He's a tall man, my father. He used to be a federal prosecutor before he went into private practice, and even now, at 68, he had that thing where he could make a room feel smaller just by being in it. "You will do nothing of the sort," he said. "Do you have any idea what kind of damage a lawsuit would do to this family? To your sister's reputation? To mine? Do you understand what I have built? Sit down. Eat your fish. Tomorrow we'll talk about a reasonable allowance until your sister's gallery starts producing." An allowance. I was 33 years old, board certified, and my father had just offered me an allowance. I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I think I should have. I think if I had it to do over, I'd have slammed every door in that house on the way out and broken the side mirror on my stepmother's car for good measure. but I just walked out, and I drove home in the rain to my apartment in Russian Hill, and I sat on my bathroom floor and I cried for about 40 minutes. And then I did what I always do. I made a list. I didn't know yet that by Tuesday I wouldn't have a job. I didn't know that by Wednesday I wouldn't have a bank account. I didn't know that by Friday my own attorney would tell me I might be looking at criminal charges. I didn't know what my father was capable of. None of us did, really, until later. The hospital called me on Tuesday morning before I'd finished my coffee. I was in scrubs already, halfway through tying back my hair, when the head of the department asked me to come in early. He was a kind man. He'd been my mentor through residency. He was sitting at his desk with his hands folded on top of a manila folder when I walked in, and the way he wouldn't quite meet my eyes told me everything before he said a word. "There's been a complaint," he said. The complaint was from a patient I'd never seen. The patient had filed a grievance with the medical board claiming I prescribed her a controlled substance off-label, that I'd been erratic in the consult, that I'd smelled like alcohol. There were 3 other complaints stacked behind it, all from patients I'd never seen, all filed within the last 72 hours. "I want to believe you," my mentor said. "You know I do, but the board has to investigate, and given the pattern, they're suspending your privileges pending review. I'm so sorry, Ren. The patients didn't exist." I checked. They had medical record numbers and addresses, but the addresses were vacant lots, and the medical record numbers belonged to people who died years ago. Somebody had fabricated entire patient files inside our hospital system, and somebody with access had put my name on them. My father sat on the board of the hospital's parent foundation. I drove from the hospital straight to my bank. I had a feeling, and I wanted to be wrong. I wasn't wrong. The teller looked at her screen and made a small, uncomfortable sound and excused herself, and when she came back, she was with a manager, and the manager told me that my accounts had been frozen pending a fraud investigation. Suspicious activity, possible embezzlement related to a family trust. I was welcome to dispute it, but the process would take 6 to 12 weeks. I had $83 in cash in my wallet. My rent was due in 9 days. I'm not going to lie to you. I lost it in the parking lot of that bank. I sat in my car and I screamed until my throat hurt, and then I called my best friend from medical school, a woman who'd left clinical practice to run a healthcare litigation firm in Oakland, and I told her what was happening, and there was a long pause, and then she said, "Sweetheart, get over here, right now. Don't go home first, just come." Her name was Myrelle. I'm going to use her real name because she deserves it. Myrelle pulled up everything she could find on Hollow Bloom that afternoon. The gallery had filed its initial paperwork 8 months ago. Brindle was listed as the creative director. Some shell company out of Delaware was listed as the owner. The funding source on the financial disclosures: personal capital contribution, W. Whitlock. I am W. Whitlock. Ren Whitlock. Ren Whitlock. My name was on the gallery's incorporation documents as the primary funder, the financial guarantor, and Myrelle had to read this part twice before I understood, the chief financial officer. "Ren," she said quietly, "how long has your father had access to your personal information?" "All my life. He has my social. He has my passport copy. He has—" I stopped. "He has everything." She nodded slowly. She didn't say what we were both thinking. She didn't have to. We spent the next 4 hours combing through public records on my father's law practice. He'd taken on a new partner 3 years ago, a man whose name I won't bother to mention because he's nobody now, but at the time he'd brought in clients from a particular kind of real estate development, the kind that involves a lot of cash, a lot of foreign LLCs, and a lot of buildings that get bought and sold without ever being lived in. The kind of clients that need somewhere to put their money where the IRS won't ask too many questions. Hollow Bloom wasn't a gallery. I mean, it was. There was a physical space in the Marina District with white walls and 3 sad sculptures and a girl behind a desk who'd taken the job because the hours were good. But the gallery's books showed $960,000 in private art sales in its first 6 months of operation. To buyers in Singapore, Dubai, the Caymans. None of those sales had any documented physical art associated with them. None of them. My father had built a laundry. He'd used my grandfather's money to seed it. my sister's face to front it, and my name, my clean, board-certified, no criminal record, perfect credit name to sign off on the books. If anyone ever came knocking, I would be the one who went to prison. I have to confront him, I said. Mireille looked at me like I'd just suggested putting my hand in a wood chipper. No. He's my father. He'll listen if I— Ren. She set down her pen. Listen to me. He has already decided you're disposable. The complaints at the hospital are not a warning shot. They are the prep work. He is making you look unstable and unreliable and possibly criminal before anyone has reason to look at the gallery. He is doing this on purpose. He is doing this on that when the IRS comes, and they will, he can hand them a daughter who looks exactly like the person who did all this. Do not call him. Do not text him. Do not let him know you know. I called him from the parking lot of her office 20 minutes later. I know. I have replayed that phone call in my head probably 800 times. Mireille told me not to, and I called him anyway, because some part of me, some 30-year-old little girl part of me, still wanted to believe that if I just confronted him with the truth, he'd be ashamed. He'd give it back. He'd hug me and say, "I'm sorry, Peanut, I lost my way." That is not what happened. I know what Hollow Bloom is, I said when he picked up. I know my name is on it. I want my money back. I want my license reinstated, and I want it all done by the end of the week, or I'm going to the U.S. Attorney's office. He was quiet for a long moment, and then he laughed. It was a soft laugh, almost affectionate, the kind of laugh he used to do when I was little and I'd come to him with some grand plan to save a stray cat or run away to become a marine biologist. "Oh, Ren," he said, "have you not checked the new filing yet?" I hadn't. I did. Right then, while he was still on the line, there was a new amendment filed that morning, a signed affidavit from me, confessing that I, Ren Whitlock, had used Hollow Bloom Gallery LLC to launder funds I'd embezzled from family accounts in order to cover personal gambling losses at 3 different casinos in Reno and Tahoe. The signature was perfect. The notary stamp was real. The dates went back 14 months. "You don't go to the U.S. Attorney," my father said gently. "You don't go to anyone, because if you do, sweetheart, you are not the witness. You are the defendant, and you will not survive a federal indictment with the case I have built. Now stop this. Come to dinner on Sunday. Apologize to your stepmother. We'll discuss your future." He hung up. I drove back to my apartment in a kind of fog. I don't remember the drive. I remember unlocking my front door and walking past my couch and lying down on the bathroom floor again, the same place I'd cried on Sunday night. Except this time I didn't cry. I just stared at the ceiling. I had no job. I had no money. I had no name. My own father had built an entire criminal case against me as insurance, and the worst part, the part I keep coming back to even now, is that he had probably started building it the day my grandfather's will was read. I'd been a piece on his board for 1.5 years, and I'd never even known we were playing. I was still on the bathroom floor when the buzzer for the building rang. It was a courier. He had a small brown box, the kind you'd use to ship a coffee mug, and a clipboard. The return address was a storage facility in Half Moon Bay. I signed for it. I sat down on my couch with it on my lap, and I almost didn't open it. I almost just left it there. Inside was a letter, handwritten, in my grandfather's tight little engineer's print. The paper was yellow on the edges. He'd written it 2 years before he died. "My Ren, if you are reading this, then one of 3 things has happened. Either I have died and the lawyers have followed my instructions, or your father and that woman have done what I have feared they would do for a very long time, or both. I suspect both. Inside this box, you will find a small audio recorder. You will also find a key. The key opens a safe deposit box at the Wells Fargo on Lombard Street. The box is in your name and has been for 6 years. Your father does not know about it. Inside the box are originals of every document I could gather on your father's law practice and his arrangement with a man named Halifax Wren. I will not pretend to understand all of it. I am an engineer, not an attorney. But I have watched your father for a long time, Ren, and I have watched what he does to people who love him. And I would not have left you so much money if I had not also left you the means to keep it. The recorder has 38 hours of audio on it from his home study. I installed it during the Thanksgiving I spent at your house the year before I got sick. He never noticed. Your father is a very arrogant man. Do not call him. Do not call your stepmother. Do not call your sister, although I do not believe your sister is clever enough to be a real part of this, only stupid enough to enjoy the spoils. Call a federal prosecutor. Bring the box. Bring the tape. Bring this letter. I have already spoken to a friend at the U.S. Attorney's office in San Francisco. Her name is on the card paper clipped to this letter. She is expecting you. I am so sorry, my girl. I should have done this while I was alive. I should have spared you the part where you find out. But I knew if I confronted him while I was breathing, he would simply outlast me. He always does, so I have left you the bomb, and I trust you to know when to use it. Build something beautiful. I love you more than anything I ever made. Grandpa, I read it 3 times. I read it 4 times. The handwriting blurred and sharpened and blurred again. I pressed my forehead into the paper and I cried in a way that doesn't have a name. Not from grief. Not from rage. From something underneath both of those, something older, the feeling of being seen completely by someone who is no longer alive to see you back. I called my rail. I told her what I had. She said, "Bring it to me. Do not stop. Do not go through a yellow light. Drive like the car is on fire." I did. The opening gala for Hollow Bloom was on a Friday night, 3 weeks later. It was the social event of the season in the marina, or at least that's what the Chronicle had said in the little blurb my stepmother had emailed me, like nothing had happened, like she was inviting me to a dinner party. She'd included a note. "I do hope you'll come, sweetheart. Your father and I miss you. Family is family." She signed it, Mom. I went. I wore a black dress. I had my hair done. I borrowed a pair of pearl earrings from my Rel that had belonged to her grandmother, and she pressed them into my palm and said, "For luck, doctor," and I almost cried again in the back of her town car. I walked into Hollow Bloom at 20 minutes past 8. The room was full of people I'd grown up around. There was a string quartet, there was champagne, there was Brindle in a backless white dress, accepting compliments like coins, glowing with the kind of light a person only glows with when she is never once asked where any of it came from. My father saw me from across the room. His face went still. He crossed the floor in maybe 6 strides. I'll give him this for an old man. He could move when he was scared. He took my elbow. He smiled at me for the benefit of the room. "What are you doing here?" he said through his teeth. "Get out. Now, before I have you removed." "Hi, Dad. I will not say it again. Out now. Now." I looked over his shoulder. My stepmother had spotted us. She was making her way over with that worried hostess expression that I had hated since I was 12. Brindle was a few feet behind her, oblivious as ever, sipping champagne. "Dad," I said, "I want to introduce you to some people." I raised a hand. 3 men in dark suits. They'd been waiting near the door since 8:05. I'd asked them not to come in until I gave the signal, walked into the gallery. The lead one I recognized. He was an assistant U.S. attorney named Helene Vrament, and behind her were 2 agents from the IRS Criminal Investigation Division and 1 from the FBI. They didn't rush. They moved at a steady, almost respectful pace through the crowd, and the crowd parted for them the way crowds always do for federal agents, even when they don't know yet that's who they are. My father's grip on my elbow loosened. I felt it go. "Dad," I said, "this is Ms. Vrament. She'd like to talk to you about some art sales." He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just looked at me, and I saw something happen behind his eyes that I had never seen in my entire life. I saw him become afraid of me. Behind him, my stepmother was saying, "What is this? What is happening? Where is the manager?" Her voice was getting higher and higher. Brindle had finally noticed something was wrong. She was looking at me with her mouth slightly open, and I will admit, just for a second, I felt something close to pleasure. The string quartet had stopped playing. I don't remember when. Ms. Vrament said, very politely, "Mr. Whitlock, we'd like you to come with us. We have some questions about the financial records of Hollow Bloom Gallery and about activity at 3 other LLCs we believe you control. Your wife is also being asked to step outside. Please don't make a scene." He made a scene. He told her she had no idea who she was dealing with. He told her his attorneys would crush her career. He told her he was a personal friend of 3 federal judges. He told her, as the agents were putting handcuffs on him in front of 212 people in black tie, that he was going to bury me. That was the word he used. Bury. He looked at me when he said it. I stood there in my Rails pearl earrings and I held his gaze and I said very quietly, so only he could hear, "Grandpa says hi." I have never seen a person's face do what his did. My stepmother fainted, or pretended to. I genuinely cannot tell with her. Either way, she went down, and one of the IRS agents caught her elbow on the way, which was probably more grace than she'd ever extended to anyone in her life. Brindle was crying, real tears this time, the messy kind, the kind that ruin makeup. She kept saying, "But it's my gallery, it's mine, I picked the artists, I picked the wall color." Nobody was listening to her. Nobody had ever really listened to her, I realized. They just used her as a face. She'd been my father's product the same way I'd been his insurance policy. It was the first time in my entire adult life I'd felt anything like pity for her. It didn't last long, but it was there. I walked out of Hollow Bloom Gallery at 8:47 p.m. The valet had my car ready. I drove to my Rails apartment, and we drank an entire bottle of cold white wine on her balcony in our gowns, and we didn't talk about it. We just sat there. Eventually, her cat came out and sat on my lap, and I cried a little bit more. But quietly this time. The case took 14 months to wind through the federal system. My father pled out in the end. He's serving 9 years at a low-security facility in Lompoc. He'll be 77 when he gets out. My stepmother got 5 years for her part. She'd been signing things she shouldn't have been signing for a very long time, and the prosecutors had recordings of her on the tape. My grandfather left, laughing about how Ren will believe anything if you say it gently. I won't tell you what I felt the first time I heard that recording. I don't have words for it. I'm not sure I want to find them. Brindle was not charged. She was, the prosecutors determined, exactly what I had always thought she was, a stupid girl who'd taken what was handed to her and never once asked where it came from. The gallery was seized and liquidated. The last I heard of her, she was working as a receptionist at a yoga studio in Bend, Oregon, and her Instagram had been set to private for over a year. My medical license was reinstated within 6 weeks. The fabricated complaints were thrown out, and the hospital wrote me an apology that I framed and hung in my downstairs bathroom, where I look at it every morning while I brush my teeth. My inheritance came back to me with interest, plus a portion of the seized assets, plus a settlement from the foundation that had been pressured into suspending me. I closed on the Sausalito building 4 months after the gala. I named the practice after my grandfather. There is a small framed photo of him on the wall behind the reception desk, the one from the planetarium in 1996, where I am 6 years old and missing both front teeth, and he is grinning at me like I personally hung the constellations. I haven't spoken to my father since the night of the gala. I don't plan to. People ask me sometimes if I will when he gets out. They ask in this hopeful way, like they want me to say yes, like they want the story to have a redemption arc. It doesn't. Some stories don't. I sued the hospital that suspended me, by the way. 1. I sued my father's law firm for the role its partners had played in fabricating the affidavit. Settled. I sued my stepmother personally for defamation, won that one too, although there's nothing left in her name to collect, which is fine. The point was the verdict on paper. The point was that somewhere in a courthouse in San Francisco, there is a document with my name on it that says, in essence, she was telling the truth and they were lying, and the court agrees. I keep my grandfather's letter in a fireproof box now. I take it out sometimes when I'm having a hard week. I read it. I put it back. He was right about one thing. He said, build something beautiful. The clinic is beautiful. The work is good. My patients are kind to me. I have a fiancé now, a quiet man who teaches high school chemistry, and he doesn't have any money or any famous parents, and he listens when I talk, and that, it turns out, is what I should have been looking for all along. But Grandpa was wrong about one thing, too. He thought he was leaving me a bomb. He didn't leave me a bomb. He left me a door. And on the other side of the door was the rest of my life, the one I was always supposed to have, the one my father had been quietly trying to steal from me since the moment my grandfather's will was read. I watched through it, I closed it behind me, and I have not looked back. I think about that bathroom floor a lot, even now. The one in my old Russian Hill apartment, where I lay down on the cold tile twice in 3 days and stared at the ceiling and tried to figure out how a person who had done everything right could end up with nothing. I think about it because that is the place where the old version of me ended. The version that still believed if you were a good daughter, your father would be a good father back. The version that thought love was a debt that automatically balanced itself. It doesn't. It never did. What my father did to me, he didn't do in a moment of weakness. He planned it. He drafted it. He notarized it. He built a case against his own child, the way another man might build a deck in his backyard, with measured boards and patient cuts. And he could only do that because for 33 years I had handed him the lumber. I had said yes when I should have said no. I had paid for his approval with my silence. I had let him define what a good daughter looked like, and then I had tried to look exactly like that picture, and the picture had eaten me alive. I want to be careful here because I don't want to sound like I'm telling anyone to be cold. I'm not. The lesson my grandfather left me, the one I keep going back to, is not about hardness. It's about clarity. He didn't hate his son. I think on some level he loved him until the day he died. But he saw him. He saw exactly what my father was, and he refused to look away just because the looking hurt. That is the part I had not learned to do. That is the part I am still learning. Cause and effect is a quieter law than people give it credit for. My father took my money because he had always taken what he wanted from me, and I had always let him. My stepmother lied because lying had always worked on me. Brindle floated through her stupid little gold-plated life because no one had ever made her stand on her own 2 feet. And I lost almost everything because for years I had mistaken obedience for love and politeness for peace. The reckoning, when it came, wasn't revenge. I want to be clear about that. It was a correction. It was the universe finally being allowed to balance a ledger I had been keeping out of true for far too long. If you're listening to this and you recognize yourself in any of it, I want you to hear one thing. Goodness without spine is not goodness. It is fuel for people who would burn you. Intelligence without the courage to use it is just decoration, and the strength to walk through a hard door, the door my grandfather built for me, the one I had to open by myself, that is the only inheritance that ever really matters. Build something beautiful, he wrote. I did. I'm still doing it. You can too.